Good morning.
早安。
It is so nice to be with you in your church today.
很高兴今天能够跟各位在教会头。
I understand that your church is a little ways from here, but it's being construction going on there.
我知道各位的这个教堂呢，现在正在重新的整修。
But it's so nice that we have a comfortable place where we can meet with God.
但是非常感谢上帝，我们能够有一个舒适的地方来跟上帝一同见面。
And I would like to apologize to you this morning.
我要跟各位抱歉一下。
I only know how to speak English.
因为他只会讲英文，我只会讲中文。
And so I have great help to help me accomplish what I need to do.
所以中文是我来讲。
And so thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
This morning I want to talk to you about lessons that I've learned from Exodus chapter 12.
我今天要跟各位分享我从出埃及记12章所学到的一个教训。
And in Exodus chapter 12, we see that there is a very great event going on.
在出埃及记第12章，我们看到一个很大的活动在进行。
This is the specially chosen people of God that are being talked about.
有一群上帝特别拣选的人。
They are slaves in a land.
他们是一群奴隶。
And the Egyptians have made them build great buildings and killed many of them.
埃及人利用这一群人盖了很多伟大的建筑，而且也杀害他们当中很多人。
They have been in the land of Egypt for 430 years.
他们在那一个地方430年做奴隶。
Several generations have been born and lived and died.
已经有好几代在那边出生过世。
And now God has said, "You are my special people, and I am taking you to a special place."
突然间，上帝跟他们讲说：“因为我拣选了你们，我要带你们到别的地方去。”
And He worked mighty miracles on behalf of the children of Israel so that they could leave Egypt.
上帝用了非常伟大的神迹，让这一群以色列人能够离开埃及。
The Pharaoh and the children of Israel, the Pharaoh had plagues come upon his people.
那当然，法老王想尽各种方法不让他们走。
And God, with a mighty hand, had told Pharaoh, "You must let my people go."
上帝用他大能的手告诉法老王说：“你让我的子民离开。”
And many plagues had fallen, and the land of Egypt was in ruins.
经过了10大灾难之后，整个埃及地被破坏。
But still Pharaoh hardened his heart.
但是呢，这个法老王的心刚硬。
And so God said, "I will bring one more plague upon the Egypt."
最后上帝说：“我要再带来一个灾难。”
And He told them, the children of Israel, to prepare for this to happen.
然后上帝就告诉他的子民以色列人说：“你们要准备，会发生一些事情。”
And he had them with a very special service called the Passover.
然后呢，上帝就定了一个非常特别的日子，叫做逾越节。
Each family was to take a lamb.
每一家人必须要拿一头羊。
And they were to roast it for a supper.
整只羊呢，烤了做晚餐。
And then they were to have bread that did not have any leaven in it.
然后呢，配上无酵饼。
And when they were to eat with their sandals on their feet and their staff on their hand, like they were ready to leave.
然后呢，在吃之前必须要着装完毕，鞋子穿好，就是随时准备要走。
Because it was very urgent that they were going to leave Egypt.
因为他们要在很紧急的情况之下离开埃及。
And God worked a very powerful ministry so that they could leave Egypt.
然后上帝用了一个非常强而有力的讯息，让他们离开。
The firstborn of every household died.
在埃及地，所有投生的人跟心口全部都死了。
But in the land of Israel, where they put the blood over the doorposts from the lamb, no firstborns died.
但是在以色列地，所有在门楣上面涂上这个羊的鲜血的，没有人有任何的问题。
And when all the firstborn died, Israel called Moses in the night to come and see him.
当 所有埃及全地投生的都被杀的时候，法老王就把这个摩西找来，
And he told Moses, "Take the people and leave quickly."
你赶快带着你的子民走吧。
And the children of Israel were on their way to the promised land.
然后呢，以色列人就赶快离开埃及，要去应许之地。
And they had this service called the Passover to remind them of how God had rescued them throughout their generations.
从此，以色列人在他们世世代代都进行这个逾越节的仪式，就是要纪念上帝怎么样从为奴之地把他们带出来。
And what I want to tell you is that you are the chosen people of God.
我今天要告诉各位，你们就是上帝所拣选的子民。
And God has something urgent for you to be ready to do.
上帝有很重大紧急的事情要各位准备好要去做，
And He will work miracles on your behalf so that you can accomplish what He asked you to do.
而他会给你们非常大的神迹，为了要达到他的工作。
And we have a service that we use to help remind us called communion.
而在我们教会有这种的所谓退休会来提醒各位这样子的事情。
When we have a communion service, we should remember that we are special and we have an urgent message and we are being rescued.
当我们进行这个圣餐礼的时候，就在提醒我们，上帝是怎么样带领我们。
Now, since you are a specially called people of God, there is an urgency that you be ready to accomplish what God has asked you to do.
那因为你是特别拣选的子民，所以你要准备为上帝在很紧急的情况之下做一些事情。
And if you are the special called people of God, you can expect that God will work miracles on your behalf.
如果你也相信你是上帝所拣选的特别的子民，那上帝一定会用神迹跟着你，让你能够做这些事情。
You here in this church are just as important to God as the Israelites were in that time.
各位今天坐在这里的每一位，就像当初以色列人当中的每一位，对上帝都是一样重要的。
And God wants to take you to the promised land.
而上帝要带领各位去到应许之地。
So how are we to be as a church since we are such a special people of God?
那所以，当我们是一群上帝特别拣选的子民的时候，我们怎么样来做他的教会的代表？
And I think there are some things that are essential for us to have in our church in order for us to be the special people of God.
那我相信有一些要素，其实是我们要成为上帝的教会很重要的。
One is prayer is very important.
首先，祷告是非常重要。
And whatever we do, we should have prayer part of the life of our church.
在我们教会的生活当中，祷告应该是我们生活的一部分。
And in order for prayer to be a part of the life of the church, it needs to be a part of your life.
如果在教会当中，祷告要成为我们生活的一部分，那你每一位你自己的生活当中也必须要祷告这个元素。
And so we can have prayer as the basis of our communication with God.
祷告可以成为我们跟上帝之间基本的交通方式。
Another thing that's important for us to do is to have good leadership.
还有一个很重要的，就是要有很好的领导力。
I'm not just talking about the pastor.
我在这里要强调，并不是只限于牧师。
It is good for us to have good leadership in our churches, in the Sabbath school, and other missions that we have in our church.
在我们教会当中，我们需要有其他的领导人带领安息学、带领信徒辅导其他的活动。
And when I studied Exodus 12, there were three things that were vital for a church to have in order for it to be the special people of God.
在我研究出埃及记第12章的时候，有3个非常重要的事情，是让这个教会能够成为上帝的教会的。
And when we have prayer, that's important, but there are three other things that I still want to talk to you about.
祷告当然非常重要，但是还有3个很重要的要素。
And leadership is very important, but there are three other things that are very important.
领导也是很重要，但是还有其他3个很重要的事情。
Having the proper organizational structure is very important for a church.
一个妥善规划的组织架构，对教会而言也是非常重要。
But Exodus 12 has something even more important than that to share with you.
但是在出埃及记第12章当中有其他更重要的来跟我们分享。
It's important to have people in different places in the church, in the right people in the right place.
我们需要把对的人放在教会事工上的对的位置。
It's important for us to have the right facility, and I know yours is being remodeled right now.
我们需要一个好的设施，那就像我们的教会现在正在整修一样。
When people come in as strangers to our church, we want them to know that we care a lot about God because we made His house really nice.
当别人走进来我们教会的时候，我们要让他们知道说，我们非常看重我们跟上帝之间这个家。
But there is something even more important from Exodus 12 that we will learn.
在出埃及记第12章，还有更重要的事情要让我们学习。
We need to understand who the people are that we can reach in the community.
我们必须要去了解是什么样的人在我们的社区社群当中会进到上帝的家来。
All around this facility is a huge community with people who don't know about God.
我们这个教堂所在的地方，周围这么大的社区里头，有非常非常多的人，他们并不知道上帝是谁。
And God has asked us to reach them with the gospel.
而上帝要求我们要把我们的手伸出去到这些人当中。
But there's something even more important. 3 things that I want to share with you from Exodus 12.
但是还有3件事情，在出埃及记我要跟各位分享。
It is vital that a church understand what its mission and vision is also.
是很重要的一件事情，就是我们必须要清楚地了解上帝的使命，还有意向。
You know, when your church gets together to discover its mission and vision, it's talking not about the present but about the future.
当我们要讨论所谓使命和这个意向的时候，并不是讨论只有现在而已，而是未来的事情。
And so God can reveal to you what He wants your church to look like 5 years, 10 years from now.
我们应该要寻求从上帝那边知道5年后、10年后这个教会应该是怎么样子。
Then you know where to aim your church and what you need to focus your church towards.
我们只有知道我们未来的目标是什么的时候，我们才能够去计划这个过程当中应该要怎么做。
But your church is a mission, and its mission is a God-led movement, means that you have to have a great foundation.
这个使命有一个很重要的条件，就是我们必须要建立在上帝所领导的之下。
And so there are 3 things that I want to share with you that I've learned from Exodus chapter 12.
在出埃及记第12章里头，我学到了这个3个重要的事情。
Here are the 3. Specialness, urgency, and expectancy.
很特殊、很紧急，而且还有期望。
These are 3 things that are vital for a church, your church, to understand to go forward properly.
我们这个教会，中山教会必须要体认这3件事情的存在，我们才能够继续往前走。
And you can have a very beautiful building, but if you don't understand these 3, you may not be able to be successful.
我们可以有一个非常漂亮的硬体跟建筑，但是如果我们不了解这3件事情的重要性的话，那哪都去不了。
You may fill your church with prayer and have great leaders, but if you don't understand these 3, then you may not be successful.
你可以每天祷告，然后有很好的领导人，但是你没有体认这3件事情，什么都做不到。
These 3 were very important to the children of Israel when they left Egypt.
当以色列人出埃及的时候，这3件事情对他们而言非常重要。
And they are very important to us as we are on our way to the modern Canaan of heaven.
对我们现今的基督徒而言，这3件一样重要，因为我们的目标一样是到达未来的应许之地。
Let's look at each one of these 3 one at a time.
我们来一个一个看这3个部分。
Specialness.
第一个是它是很特别的，
This means that you are a chosen people of God.
这很重要，因为各位在这里的每一位 你都是上帝所拣选的子民。
That means when God is here present with us and he looks across this congregation, he is looking at the people that are very, very precious to him.
所以，当你坐在这里的时候，上帝看着各位每一位，你们都是他特别精挑细选出来的。
Do you like to be someone who is specially chosen?
你喜欢作为一个被人家特别拣选出来的人吗？
I remember when I was younger in school, I was always eager to be chosen to on one of the teams for perhaps a game.
我记得我还在学校的时候，我很喜欢呢，就是我常常希望我会被选参加某一个学校的队伍。
And I didn't want to be chosen last. I want to be chosen first.
我希望呢，当人家在选择队友的时候，我是第一个被挑出来，而不是最后一个。
Because then I would know that I was very special.
那因为如果我是第一个被点名选出来的话，那表示我真的是很特别。
And you were not chosen last. God has chosen you first.
各位，你今天坐在这里，上帝是第一个去选你的。
You are the special chosen people of God.
你是上帝特别选出来的。
Let me show you some in Scripture.
让我们来看看圣经上怎么讲。
This is Deuteronomy 7, 6, 7, and 8.
申命记第7章6到8节。
Would you read this for them?
Sure. 因为你归耶和华你上帝为圣洁的名，耶和华你上帝从地上的万民中拣选你，特作自己的子民。耶和华专爱你们，拣选你们，并非因你们的人数多于别民，原来你们的人数在万民中是最少的，是因耶和华爱你们，又因要守他向你们列祖所起的事。
Do you see there that it says that God has chosen you?
你有看到上帝拣选了你，
And the reason that he chose you, it says, is because he loves you.
而他拣选是因为他爱你。
He could have chosen somebody else.
他可以选别人，
But no, he has chosen you, this church, to be his specially called people.
但是上帝是选择我们，选择你，选择这个教会，成为他特别的选民。
That means that here in this part of Taipei, this is the chosen people of God.
所以这也是告诉我们在整个台北市当中，各位，我们就是上帝所特别选出来的选民。
John 15, 15 and 16. Let's look at a New Testament text similar. Could you read that one, please?
约翰福音第15章15到16节，以后我不再称你们为仆人，因仆人不知道主人所做的事，我乃称你们为朋友，因我从我父所听见的，已经都告诉你们了。不是你们拣选了我，是我拣选了你们，并且分派你们去结果子，叫你们的果子长存，使你们奉我的名，无论向父求什么，他就赐给你们。
Especially verse 16 is important to us, I believe.
第16节，我相信是对我们而言特别重要。
It says we didn't choose God, he chose us.
这里面告诉我们不是我们去选择上帝，是上帝选择了我们。
And he says there's a purpose that he chose us so that we could go and bear fruit.
而且他告诉我们，上帝为什么选我们，是要我们去为他结果子。
He has chosen us for a special purpose to accomplish mission for him.
上帝选我们是为了让我们去执行他要给我们的特别的任务。
1 Peter 2, 9 and 10 has a message also.
在彼得前书第2章9到10节，唯有你们是被拣选的族类，是有君尊的祭司，是圣洁的国度，是属上帝的子民，要叫你们宣扬那召你们出黑暗入奇妙光明者的美德。你们从前算不得子民，现在却做了上帝的子民；从前未曾蒙连续，现在却蒙了连续。
This is the New Testament saying something to you about that you are special.
这一个新约圣经的经文是特别告诉我们，你就是那个特别的。
And it uses language that God used for the children of Israel when he called them special.
当上帝选了以色列人，称他们为他特别选民的时候，也是用这些话。
It says you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation.
他特别强调说，你们是被拣选出来的，是有君尊的祭司，而且是圣洁的国度。
This says something special about your church. You are a chosen people of God.
这是告诉这一句话，其实是对我们每一位，对我们教会而言，上帝是特别拣选的。
That means when you walk down the street, you can hold your head high because you are a chosen person.
所以，当你走在街上的时候，你可以很骄傲的抬头挺胸，因为你是上帝特别拣选的。
And you can do things boldly for God because He has chosen you.
所以你应该很勇敢、坚强的为上帝来做事情，因为是他选你。
You are the specially chosen people of God.
你是上帝特别选出来的人。
The second thing was urgency.
第二件事情就是急迫性。
And what makes it urgent for the special chosen people of God is that we live in the last days of Earth's history.
为什么对上帝所拣选的我们而言，这是很重要的？因为这个已经是末世了。
Our name, we're called Seventh-day Adventist.
我们教会的全名叫基督复临安息日会。
And the seventh day means that we worship on Sabbath.
安息日表示我们是在安息日这一天来崇拜上帝。
And that's right because that's what the Bible tells us to
因
do.
为圣经上写的圣日就是安息日。
But we are Adventists because we are looking forward to the soon coming of Jesus in the second Advent.
但是我们教会的前面写基督复临，表示说我们是期盼而且相信耶稣基督会再来的。
Do you believe Jesus is coming soon?
你相信耶稣基督即将要来吗？
Yes. Yes, Jesus is coming soon.
耶稣他就快来了。
Does that mean that the chosen people of God need to have something urgent to do?
那是不是表示说这些上帝的选民有一些非常急迫性的东西要去做？
Daniel chapter 2 was something that predicted our day.
但以理书第2章44节已经预言了我们这个时代。
And you remember the image of that Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a tall image with a head and different metals were made up this image.
如果你们记得的话，尼布甲尼撒王做了一个梦，在他的梦中有一个非常巨大的这个像。
And each of those metals represented a different kingdom that was to come.
每一个这个像的不同的部分是金银铜铁泥降下来，它代表了一个不同的世代。
And down in the toes and feet of the image, it was iron and clay.
在这个铜像，在这个像的最下面脚的地方是铁跟泥混合做的脚趾。
And that's where we are today.
我们今天的时代，照圣经，就是到了这个像的脚。
Some people said we must be in the toes of the image.
有人说，我们应该算是在这个脚趾头、脚尖上。
And the next thing that happens in the dream is a large stone comes and destroys the image.
那很重要的是，再接下来会发生什么事情？有一颗石头从天外飞来，要把这个像打碎。
And verse 44 tells us what happens after that.
第44节告诉我们发生什么事。当那列王在位的时候，天上的上帝必另立一国，永不败坏，也不归别国的人，却要打碎灭绝那一切国，这国必存到永远。
The image is about to be destroyed.
这个像即将要被打碎。
And God has chosen a specially called people in order to have an urgent message that Jesus is coming soon.
而上帝拣选一群很特别的人，必须要在很急迫的情况之下，去告诉所有的人说：上帝快来了。
We do not know the exact day or hour when Jesus is coming.
我们不知道什么时候基督会复临，
But we do know that when we look at the signs around us that His coming is soon.
但是我们知道，我们从我们周围所发生的这些兆头，什么时候耶稣基督快来了。
Daniel 8:14 is a prophecy of time.
但以理书第8章第14节是一个有关于时间的预言。他对我说：到2300日，圣所就必洁净。
And so we have that great prophecy that starts in 457 BC.
所以呢，我们就有这个2300日的预言的解说，从主前457年开始计算。
And the prophecy told in Daniel told exactly when Christ would be here.
然后呢，在他的预言当中就讲到耶稣基督什么时候会来到这个世界上。
And then the prophecy goes all the way to the date 1844.
然后这个2300日的预言就一直延续到1844年。
And then the 1884 was beginning of the time of the end.
而1844年，照圣经的预言，就是末日的开始。
And you and I are a long distance beyond 1844.
如果你看一下你的手表，我们现在是2014年，距离1844年已经蛮远了。
And Jesus is coming soon.
所以耶稣基督距离要来的时间更近了。
Jesus himself talked about this in Matthew 24.
耶稣在马太福音第24章也提到，那时人子的兆头要显在天上，地上的万族都要哀哭，他们要看见人子有能力，有大荣耀，驾着天上的云降临。他要差遣使者，用号筒的大声，将他的选民从四方，从天这边到天那边都招聚了来。
We are on the very edge of the time when this will be fulfilled.
我们就在那个非常关键的时间点，而这个预言就会在我们有生之年实现。
And we are ready to see that Jesus is coming in the clouds of heaven.
在座的每一位，我们都是准备可以亲眼看到耶稣基督从天上降临的这一群。
And so the specially chosen people of God have an urgent message for the
所以
people
就
today.
是因为这样子，我们这一群特殊的选民，我们有一个非常急迫的事情要做。
Some of the very last words of the Bible give us a promise.
在圣经的最后一卷书，给我们一些的保证。启示录第22章第7和第20节，看啊，我必快来，凡遵守这书上预言的有福了。证明这事的说，是了，我必快来。阿们。主耶稣啊，我愿你来。
Jesus, through the prophet John, said again and again, I am coming quickly.
耶稣透过这个使徒约翰一再的强调跟重复说，他就快来。
So we as the servants, the specially called people of God, must act quickly.
所以我们这些选民更要加紧努力，快速的反应。
Sometimes when we think about all that we have to do to warn so many millions of people, it becomes almost impossible.
当我们说有的时候回想我们的目标要给这几亿人去知道这些事情的时候，几乎是一个不可能的任务。
And we say, how can this small group of people share this urgent message with millions of people outside?
怎么样能够用这么少的人去把这个讯息传给外面这么一大票的人？
We say it seems like more than we can do.
似乎远远超过我们的能力范围。
And the truth is, it is more than we can do.
事实也是，这远远超过我们所能做的。
But it's not more than we can do with God's help.
但是如果有上帝的帮忙，这就不一样了。
So that's the third thing. We must remember that the specially called people of God with an urgent message also have a powerful God ready to help.
我们必须要记住，虽然说我们有一个很急迫的任务要去做，但是同时我们也有从上帝来的应许，他会让我们帮我们做这件事情。
The children of Israel back in Egypt, there was no way that they could make themselves free.
回到当以色列人他们在埃及是奴隶的时候，他们靠他们自己是不可能从埃及离开。
But with a God who was eager to set them free, it happened.
但是当上帝非常的急迫的要把他们释放的时候，这件事情就发生了。
And we ourselves can say, it doesn't matter if we're a small group, we can, with God's power, accomplish whatever He asks us to do.
我们必须要告诉我们自己，我们也相信， 虽然我们只是一小群人，但是有上帝跟我们在一起，什么事情都可以做。
When the children of Israel reached the promised land, they were being led then by Joshua.
当以色列人来到这个上帝好不容易带他们来到的这个应许之地的时候，他们的领导人是谁？是约书亚。
And the Lord came to Joshua and gave him this message that we have here.
上帝告诉这个领队的约书亚说：“我岂没吩咐你吗？你当刚强壮胆，不要惧怕，也不要惊慌，因为你无论往哪里去，耶和华你的上帝必与你同在。”
That is a promise that Joshua could attempt anything that God asked him to do and be successful.
这个是上帝给约书亚的一个应许，就是靠着上帝，无论做任何事情都可以成。
In the New Testament, Jesus, in his own words, gave us a promise very similar.
耶稣自己在新约的约翰福音第14章第12到14节，也给我们同样的应许。我实实在在的告诉你们，我所做的事，信我的人也要做，并且要做比这更大的事，因为我往父那里去。你们奉我的名，无论求什么，我必成就，叫父因儿子得荣耀。你们若奉我的名求什么，我必成就。
God is saying that you can have power from heaven to accomplish what he asks you to do.
上帝告诉我们说，他应许我们，我们奉他的名来祈求，什么事情都可以做。
Jesus called his 12 disciples together and he sent them out 2 by 2 to the villages around him.
耶稣在新约福音里头，他曾经呼召他的门徒，派他们两个去做事。
And when they went out, they were able to heal the sick and cast out demons.
他们进到人群当中，这一群平凡的使徒，他们却有能力、权柄制服一切的鬼，而且医治各样的病。
And they shared the gospel of the kingdom with those around them.
他们对周围的人去宣扬上帝的国。
And then Jesus sent out 70 people and he sent them 2 by 2.
在路易加福音第10章，耶稣又选了70个人，差遣他们两个的在他面前，往自己所要到的各城各地方去。那70个人欢欢喜喜的回来说：“主啊，因你的名，就是鬼也服了我们。”
In verse 17 it says when they came back, they were rejoicing because God had worked miracles so they could accomplish what he had asked them to do.
在第17节，他们非常高兴的回来，跟耶稣回报说：“因为他的名，让他们能够达成任务。”
So when you want to have a healthy church that is growing, you need to have good support.
如果我们要一个教会健康的增长，我们必须要有很好的基础，3个支撑柱。
What we do needs to be supported by the gospel and the gospel commission.
最重要的是这个福音本身，还有能够接受这个福音的差遣的人。
And specifically, this church needs to understand what its mission and vision is.
而且这个教会它必须要很清楚上帝给我们的使命跟意向。
And there needs to be an abundance of prayer.
而且要不住的祷告。
You must have a very strong foundation under the church.
在一个教会里头，要能够健康，必须要有很强的根基。
But you need specialists, urgency, and expectancy to help support this very good, growing church.
当这个根基扎稳了之后，我们需要有这3个柱子，有期望、有紧迫性，还有特殊，我们才能够让这个教会继续往上盖。
Specialness, urgency, and expectancy should be a part of all of our knowledge in whatever we do as a church.
一个教会，它必须随时都认清它是特殊的，它有急迫的事情要做，而且它也有很好的应许跟期望去抓住。
When we talk to each other, we should be saying, "Brother, sister, you are a specially chosen person of God."
当我们跟我们弟兄姐妹交往的时候，我们必须要随时提醒说：“ 弟兄姐妹，你是那一群被特殊拣选出来的选民。
And the person that you say that to should get a big smile and say, yes, you're a specially chosen person of God too.
而当有人这样提醒我们的时候，我们应该也回复他说：“对，你也是上帝所特别拣选的。”
And you should be able to say to each other, we have something very urgent to do for God.
我们要经常互相提醒说，上帝有非常急迫的事情要我们去做。
And the reply should be, yes, we have something urgent, a message to share with the world.
我们必须互相的提醒，我们有很急迫性的需求，要去把这个福音传播出去。
And we should each be able to say, I have seen God work on our behalf.
而我们每一个人互相鼓励，我们都相信看到上帝在我们身上所做的事情。
And God has asked our church to do something big.
而且我们也一再提醒我们自己，上帝要我们这个小小的教会做更大的事情。
And we can do it because God has asked us to.
而且因为是上帝要我们做的，我们就可以做得到。
And when God asks something, He gives power to accomplish it.
当上帝对我们有要求的时候，他一定会给我们能力做到。
So when you have worship, you should be thinking about these three things.
所以当我们聚会的时候，我们必须经常想到刚才所提到这三件事。
And I hope that you'll continue to preach about these three things.
我也希望弟兄姐妹当中一直在互相的鼓励跟传讲这三个重要的事情。
And when you're visiting with one another or in the community, that you'll be thinking about specialness, urgency, and expectancy.
当我们在进行我们的圣餐礼的时候，当我们在拜访访问的时候，我们要一再的提醒我们有这种急迫性。
And everything that the church does should be filled with the knowledge that we are special, we have a message, and God will empower it.
一个教会，它必须要深深的在我们当中去建立这种的认知，就是我们是特别拣选的，我们有急迫的事情，急的事情要马上去做，而且我们相信上帝会给我们能力去完成这些事情。
When my son was little, he would put this cape on his back and have a stick in his hand, and then he was all of a sudden the most powerful person in the world.
我儿子小的时候，他喜欢在身上带一个这个披风，然后拿一根棍子，他突然之间他觉得他是全世界最有力的人。
And he could take on any villain or any bad person because he was powerful.
然后呢，他觉得他自己变成是一个超人，可以把所有的坏人全部打掉。
And he would go running across the yard saying, I will conquer everything.
然后他会在这个院子里跑说，我会战胜一切。
And then he would catch his toe on the root of a tree and he'd go boom on the ground.
然后呢，就不小心就被树根绊倒，砰，摔在地上。
And he would come up with tears in his eyes, knowing that he was not as powerful as he thought.
就突然之间惊醒，原来他不是全世界最强壮的人。
You and I sometimes feel that way because we try things just on our own.
有的时候我们也跟他一样，因为我们试着用我们自己的方式来做事情，结果就这样。
And human beings on our own, we are not very powerful.
各位，人类我们自己本身其实是一个蛮软弱的。
But if we have God behind us, we are very powerful.
但是如果我们能够让上帝站在我们背后的时候，
Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 17.
耶利米书第32章第17节，主耶和华，你曾用大能和生出来的膀臂创造天地，在你没有难成的事。
This verse reminds us that God was able to create the earth with the sound of his voice.
这个章节提醒我们一件事情，各位回想一下，上帝只是用他的言语，他用讲的，就可以创造这个世界。
God commanded, and it happened as he said.
上帝只是命令，然后这个事情就发生。
And so it reminds us that when God asks us to do something, there is nothing too difficult for God.
所以这应该提醒我们，当上帝要我们去做一些事情的时候，在他 怎么可能有做不到的呢？
And if God has asked you to do something, there is nothing too difficult for you if you work according to God's plan.
所以，如果你愿意照着他的计划来做的话，没有任何事情应该会难倒你。
Isaiah 65:24.
以赛亚书第65章第24节，他们尚未求告，我就应允；正说话的时候，我就垂听。
God even is ready to answer before we ask.
在我们还没有求的时候，上帝已经准备要给我们了。
So you can go boldly before the Lord and ask for His power as a chosen people of God to accomplish great things for Him.
所以你可以非常勇敢的、非常大声的来到上帝面前，来祈求，让他能够赐能力给你。
I saw an article in a newspaper that was similar to this picture one time, and there was a man looked like he was holding a piano up with one hand.
我曾经在报纸上看过一张照片，也类似像这样子，有一个人他用一只手就把一台钢琴举起来。
Have you ever tried to hold a piano up with one hand?
你有试过用一只手把这个钢琴举起来吗？
If I tried that, it would come and crush me.
如果是的话呢，这一台钢琴重将近1吨，绝对把我压死。
But the picture had this man with his hand on the piano, and it looked like he was holding it up just very well.
但是在这个报纸上的照片呢，就有一个人他用一只手就扶住一台钢琴。
Then you look very closely, and you saw there was a cable coming from above holding the piano.
但是如果你仔细看的话，你就看到像这个照片当中一样，原来上面绑了一条绳子。
The man's power was not in his arm.
这个人他并不是因为他这一只手非常的强壮，
The power came from above.
而是呢，在这个钢琴上面一个非常有力的绳子绑住他。
And when God asks you to do powerful things, it is not in your power that they are accomplished.
所以要记住，当上帝要你做一件似乎不太可能的任务的时候，上帝不是要你用你自己的力量去完成，
Your real power will come from above.
你那个真正的力量是从上面来的。
And then you can do things that make you look like a superhero.
然后呢，你能够做的事情，在其他人看来却是一个超人才能完成的事情。
You'll be able to do things that you didn't think could be accomplished as a church.
你可以做到你自己都不认为你可以做到的事情。
God comes to your church and He says, plant a church.
上帝来到你的教堂，然后说：“你帮我再去植一个教堂。”
If God has asked it, then it can be done.
如果上帝要求我们做这个事情，那我们一定做得到。
If God asks you as a church to plant 10 churches,
如果上帝要求我们要生出10个松山教会，
then you'll be able to do it if that's what God asks you to do.
如果这个是上帝要求的，那我们也可以做得到。
If God asks you to become 1,000 people in worship, then you can do it because God will empower it.
如果上帝要求我们去做这件事情，那我们要成为一个1000人聚会的教会，也是可以做得到的。
So often the special chosen people of God do not understand what they really have in the power that they can accomplish things.
最大的问题是，经常这些被特别拣选的人，他们忽略了，他们其实透过上帝可以做多伟大的事情。
Too often they'll say, "Oh, we can't do it. We don't have the resources. No way we can do it."
通常最大的问题是发生在我们会自怨自哀，然后说：“哎呀，不可能啦，我们没有这么大的资源，我们没有办法做这件事情。”
But the power of the God of heaven can do anything He asks you to do.
记住，如果这件事情是上帝所要求的，那个从天上来的无限的力量是可以帮你完成。
There's a story told about a couple who were starting to get gray hair and were somewhere in the United States.
有一个故事讲到，有一个老夫妇在美国的某一个城镇，
And she was laid off from work. She was no longer had employment.
这个老太太她失业了，
And soon he lost his job too.
然后没多久呢，这位老先生也失业了。
And they didn't know what they were going to do. It was hard to find a job when you have gray hair sometimes.
那你上了年纪之后，头发都灰白了，你很难去找一份工作。
And so they tried very hard, but were unable to get a job.
他们虽然很努力，但是都找不到工作。
One thing that this couple had liked to do was to collect art.
这对老夫妇他们很喜欢做一件事情，就是收藏这些艺术品。
And all the art that they bought was very cheap art.
那他们在他们能力范围之内能够买来的这些艺术品，当然都很便宜了。
And they had their walls full of original artwork, but it was all very cheap.
那他们的墙上呢，就挂了很多这些原创的这些人，他们在还没有出名的时候，很便宜的买来的这些画作，在他们墙上。
Some of it they'd even pulled out of trash because they thought somebody had thrown it away, but it was a nice picture, and so they saved it.
有时候他们甚至呢，从垃圾堆里头看到一幅不错的画，觉得这个很漂亮，他就把它捡回家。
And so they said, it's getting hard to have enough money to buy anything to eat.
他说：“哎呀，我们现在呢，连买食物吃饭的钱都没了。”
And so maybe we should start selling our pictures.
那可能是我们要考虑来卖一些我们的这个画的时候，收藏品的时候。
And they had a friend who was an art expert come, and they said, we want you to check this picture out as to what you think its value is.
所以他们就请了他们一位这个专家啊，这个朋友呢，就来看说，你帮我看看这幅画值不值钱？
They said, we think this is the most valuable picture we have in our house.
然后他们就说呢，我们觉得这是我们全家里头所有最值钱的画。
So the art expert came in and started looking at that picture, but then he saw another picture and he says, this one interests me more.
他这个朋友来到他们家之后，看一看那幅画，看着看着，他突然说，那一幅画我比较有兴趣。
And he spent some time studying the painting as an expert.
然后呢，这位艺术专家呢，鉴定师，他就在这个仔细看那一幅画。
And what he discovered is that it was this picture by Van Gogh painted in 1886.
结果他发现这个墙上居然挂了一幅是梵谷在1886年所画的一个红的罂粟花，就是各位所看到的这一幅。
And it was worth many millions of dollars.
价值好几千万美金。
They didn't know the power that they had in their own house to accomplish what they needed to do.
所以他们根本不知道，在他们家里头就有隐藏着这个可以让他们做任何事情的能量。
And so they sold the painting.
所以他们就把这幅画卖了。
They had no difficulty buying enough food for the house.
从那天开始，要再买一栋房子都不是问题。
They didn't have to worry about going to work.
根本不需要工作。
They were able to retire.
从此退休。
Their house was completely paid off.
房子贷款付清了。
And they could have done that long before, but they didn't know the power they had, the resources they had at their disposal.
其实早800年他们就可以做这件事情，但是他们忽略了，在他们家里头就有这个蕴藏的能量。
Do you, as a church, realize the resources that you have at your disposal?
各位，身为基督复临安协会松山教会的教友的各位，你们有没有注意到？你相信，其实我们有非常大的能量从上面来。
You are the specially chosen people of God.
你是上帝所特别拣选的选民。
He has given you an urgent message to share with the world around you.
他给了你一个非常急迫的任务，要你去分享他的福音。
And he has given you the resources to accomplish anything he asked you to do.
而且他保证他会给你这个能力去达成使命跟任务。
That makes you very powerful people sitting here today.
你今天坐在这里，其实你是一位非常有能力的人。
You can hold up pianos if that's what God asked you to do.
如果上帝真的要你做，你也可以用一只手把钢琴举起来。
Or you can share the gospel with the community around you because that's what God has asked you to do.
你也可以在你的周围去分享福音，因为如果那是上帝要你做的事。
So never forget that you are a specially called people of God.
你永远不要忘记，你是上帝所特别拣选的。
And Exodus 12 also tells us that it's urgent that we move quickly.
出埃及记第12章告诉我们，我们必须要加紧脚步。
And it also tells us God will work on your behalf.
而且也告诉我们，上帝透过你的手要完成伟大的事情。谢谢。